Testing 1, 2, 3. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. We have confirmed it's 7:00 p.m. Mr. Warzika is all set to go. The mics are live. If you hit the talk button, the red light comes on, you're on. If I could have our town clerk read the roll call, please. Present.
Here.
Deb Bacon. Stephen Delaney.
Here.
Nicholas Gorham.
Here.
Thank you. And Mr. Spearman, as always, if you'd be so kind to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir. I guess my mic is still on, and while we're standing, if we could just bow our heads for a brief moment. Dear Lord, we ask for your guidance here tonight. We ask for blessings to the town of Coventry. We ask that we do the best we can tonight and in the future coming months. We have faith in our town, and we ask for your blessings from now and forever. Amen. Amen. And evacuation plan, Mr. Spearman, please. Thank you, Mr. Spearman, as always. Hope everybody had a happy Father's Day, the fathers that are here tonight, grandfathers if is the case. At this time, I'd like to ask for our interim town manager, Mr. Steve Delaney, to
Excuse
comment
me, Mr. President?
and address the issue.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we add public comment to the meeting tonight. I think we need to hear from the public as to their ideas and thoughts on whether they understood exactly what happened last week at the FTM and the voting, and also going forward. I don't want to make it a 3-hour meeting, but I think if we keep it reasonable and a 3-minute time limit per person, once up and that's it, maybe we could get some input. The people and the voters voted last week, and I think, as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to hear if they have anything to say. So I'd like to make that motion.
Oh, okay. Motion made and seconded.
Any discussion?
Discussion?
Yeah, I believe in public comment, but I think tonight, I think after the explanation maybe from the interim town manager, we're basically voting tonight on just a continuation of the, I certainly want an explanation. I think we failed badly in letting the people know and explaining it to them, but I don't know if public comment's going to make a difference. I just think a good explanation of what these resolutions are all about will suffice.
I agree. I think definitely, I'm not saying we have to do it immediately. I just would like that if there are questions, I think this would be the last time we can get them answered before we go ahead and whether we hold another FTM, all-day referendum. We have some really hard decisions to make. We have budgets that passed and no levy, and grants that are in danger. Well, they're gone. So that is my reasoning behind asking for public comment.
Okay, motion made and seconded, and discussion. At this time, all in favor of that motion?
Aye.
All against?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. As I was saying now, let's have Mr. Steve Delaney address the issues that are before us, as I think we're all aware of.
Thank you, Mr. President. So why are we here tonight? The biggest issue, as we finished the financial town meeting or completed the evening on the early morning of Wednesday, it was apparent to me as the town manager the next morning that there were some loose ends, to say the least. Given that we, as a community, are creatures of the state, we exist because of whatever authority the state gives us. In the course of my career, if I've sensed a financial issue that needs state involvement, my first call in the morning is to our state Department of Revenue personnel to alert them to a potential fiscal problem here in this community. That was the first thing I did on Wednesday morning, and shortly after that I received an email from the Office of the Inspector General, in addition to the Department of Revenue, saying we need to talk. We convened a conference call. It's been kind of a blur the last few days. We set up a conference call with representatives of the Department of Revenue from the Office of the Auditor General. It was very clear from the conversation with the Auditor General that they believe that the best course of action for the town to take would be to reconsider the taxation article as part of the budget, because without it, there's a clear question on what would transpire. It was also believed as part of that conversation, and you can see it as part of the Auditor General's letter, which is in your packets tonight, that in fact there was a complete vote on each of the budgets, municipal and school. The question remained on whether or not you could actually vote the tax, which was not approved. So on the basis of the recommendation and the strong recommendation from the Auditor General and Department of Revenue, we started to move toward how are we going to put this together. The reality is we're facing a crunch with the end of June, the end of the fiscal year. We're not able to send out tax bills given the uncertainty of what's going on. We're uncertain as to what anything happens. So here we are. We've worked on that process. As part of this process, we as staff working with the President of the Council determined that we had to resubmit our budget numbers to the state. We also had to give 10 days notice of a potential financial town meeting continuation. We took the initiative to do that prior to any consideration of the council in the event that this council chooses to move forward. This council could vote tonight to say, no, we're not going forward, or we are. If they choose to go forward, we've put the mechanisms in place to try and complete that process before the end of the fiscal year, in an effort to avoid, frankly, a fiscal calamity for this community. Whatever happens, happens, but from the town manager's perspective, I think we did the right thing trying to pull the pieces together so that the council can make an informed decision. That's kind of what our jobs are, to help support them. So that's where we are tonight. We're here with the guidance and the support of the state, recommending this particular course of action to this community, and it's now at the council level to determine how they wish to proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Delaney. I personally want to thank our interim town manager for the diligent work he's done since the end of last Tuesday night. I also want to thank our town solicitor that's been constantly busy, likewise since that time, Mr. Nicholas Gorham. I want to thank also Edward Zika, that's been working with the press, working with numbers, working extra where I feel personally it shouldn't have been. To be in our situation, to me, is not only precarious, not only dangerous, but to me personally embarrassing. All right? We know that the town budget and the school budget got approved. How it went 6 hours on an FTM and end up with no decision, no approval to pay our bonds, which we have to do by law, or we go defunct, no approval of accepting grants, that is basically money for free, we match, and only for work that we want to do as our directors and a town manager approves. Monies to tax levy so that we can bring in the money needed to run our upcoming fiscal year, July 1. The schools, the town, library, DPW, the police department, to leave us at 11:30 at night, last Tuesday, going into midnight, I think past 12:30, and to have less than 200 people say nay, representing 37,000 people, the town of Coventry, is ridiculous. The system's archaic, and I resent being here tonight. So I wanted to get that out. As Mr. Delaney articulated very clearly, we have a resolution before us tonight, well-drafted, well-considered, well-approved, and authorized by our letter that we've received from the Auditor General. And I take privilege, I think, in reading this letter tonight. We all have copies. I think you all have copies. And everybody's been saying, Auditor General, Auditor General. I've heard that for the last 7 months, Auditor General. Well, let's listen to what the Auditor General says tonight, or yesterday, dated the 18th. And I'm reading it the 19th. It came to me first, so I'll read it. Others were going to read it, but let me read it. Dear council members, I write regarding the town of Coventry's recent financial town meeting to approve the budget and tax levy for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. It appears the budgeted fiscal 2019 expenditures for both the town and the school were approved at the financial town meeting. However, the tax levy, appropriations to pay debt service, and the authorization to expend grant funding were not. Given the unclear directive of the voters, I strongly recommend the council act swiftly to take whatever action is necessary to ensure the town's tax levy and operating budgets for fiscal year 2019 are duly authorized. Arguments could be made regarding the need for the voters to specifically authorize general obligation debt service expenditures. Additionally, authorization of a tax levy to support the approved level of fiscal year expenditures could be viewed as implied. Nonetheless, the town council should seek to immediately schedule, and let me say the word again, immediately, schedule an additional financial town meeting to ensure voter authorization is obtained. I would recommend, for both ease and clarity, only one comprehensive question be put before the voters to approve or reject a fiscal 2019 budget proposal reflecting the tax levy and expenditures for the town and the school department, including debt service and grant-related expenditures. It is imperative, I guess, again, the word is imperative, that the current uncertainty regarding the town's fiscal 2019 operating budget be resolved to allow tax bills to be mailed out expeditiously. This would avoid any negative impact on the town's cash flow and its ability to meet payroll and other obligations. Sincerely, Dennis E. Hoyle, CPA, Auditor General. Sent to our town manager, our town solicitor, our interim town finance director, the state director of revenue, and Suzanne Greshner, the chief, Division of Municipal Finance. To me, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are here representing 37,000 people, the letter speaks for itself. The town council has an obligation. We will not let our town go belly up. We will move to get the approval from the voters. next Thursday. My opinion. It's going to be approve or reject. Hopefully it's approve, because there's all kinds of dues to pay if it's reject. You don't want to know what that means? I don't even want to tell you what that means, outside of no police service, no DPW, et cetera, et cetera. All right. There's no public comment, sir, tonight. We've got a resolution in front of us. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. All right. At this time, we got, if we're going to read the resolution, I don't know if that necessary, Mr. Solicitor. I think we all have the resolution in front of us. I think the resolution speaks for itself.
Are we going to have
I
any
think it's
comments
very
from-
clear. No, we are not. I think we've
From
already-
us?
the town council's welcome to, absolutely. Absolutely. I hadn't heard that request before.
Thank you.
You're definitely welcome to comment before we vote.
Are we going to read the resolution?
If we can read it, you want to read it? Or we can have the town clerk read it? I think we all have it in front of us.
Allow our town clerk to
So,
read this
okay,
resolution,
this is-
so it's clear, it's out there.
Emma Toronto, if you would be so kind to read the resolution that is before us, page 4, 5, and 6. I think it's self-explanatory, but let's read it again.
Okay, whereas pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 45-3-6, the Town Council of Coventry may call for a town meeting to transact any business relating to the town, and the town clerk shall cause the electors to be notified of the time, when, and the place where the meeting is to be held, and of the business proposed to be transacted. And whereas Rhode Island General Law 45-3-12 directs the town clerk to post such a meeting in the manner provided therein. If the purpose of the meeting includes the proposal of tax, and whereas at the town financial meeting on, did I say June 12th? June 12th, 2018, the electors of the town of Coventry approved both a school budget and municipal budget pursuant to and in accordance with the law. And whereas at the same town financial meeting, the electors rejected items 3 and 4 of Resolution G, which provided in pertinent part that Section 3, that no more than $5,056,423 be appropriated in tax revenues, interest earnings, state aid, and other sources for the retirement of principal and interest on outstanding bond indebtedness. Section 4, that the town council be authorized to expand federal and state grant funds or other grants and aid that are received during the fiscal period for general fund purposes, for the capital improvement program, or for other activities provided by the town charter or state law. Whereas at the same town financial meeting, the electors rejected Resolution J, which presented the electors with a proposal for the levy, assessment and collection of taxes in the sum of or not less than $73,183,412 and not more than $73,987,759, whereas the Town of Coventry Charter 8.30 provides that when action on the general budget has become final, the town financial meeting shall adopt and the town council shall cause to be delivered to the tax assessors a resolution levying and ordering the assessment and collection of tax on retainable real estate and tangible personal property at such rate to be fixed by the tax assessor, as provided by law, as will, together with the assessment and collection of tax on retainable intangible property belonging to the inhabitants of the town, the rates established in accordance with law, amount in the aggregate to a minimum and maximum to be set forth in the resolution. The minimum shall be equal to the receipts from tax on property as established in operating budget as adopted, and the maximum shall be as set by the town financial meeting. It shall be the duty of the assessor to prepare a roll including all property subject to town taxes and deliver the same to the town treasurer on or before a date fixed by the town council. Whereas, although the action on the municipal and school department budgets is final and the bonded indebtedness of the town must be paid, there will be no means by which the town can pay for the operation of its municipal government, its schools, or its debts without passage of a tax resolution. And whereas the authority to accept federal and state grant funds or other grants and aid is necessary to ensure the continuation of important municipal and school services. Now, therefore, the town council does hereby reconvene the town financial meeting of June 12, 2018, in such a manner that the electors of the town of Coventry shall have an opportunity to reconsider and approve or reject the following resolutions from June 12, 2018. Item 3 and 4, Resolution G, which presented the electors with the following proposals for appropriation. Section 3, that not more than $5,056,423 be appropriated in tax revenues, interest earnings, state aid, and other sources for the retirement of principal and interest on outstanding bond indebtedness. Section 4, that the town council be authorized to expend federal and state grant funds or other grants and aid that are received during the fiscal period for general fund purposes, for the capital improvement program, or for other activities provided by the town charter of state or state law. Resolution J, which presented the electors with a proposal to levy and order the assessment and collection of a tax on retainable real estate and tangible personal property for the levy, assessment and collections of tax in the sum of not less than $73,183,412 and not more than $73,987,759. The town clerk is directed to give notice of this town financial meeting in accordance with Rhode Island General Law 45-3-12, notice of meeting to dispose of land or make tax for June 28, 2018, and the Board of Canvassers are directed to conduct the meeting according to the law. All other town departments shall cooperate as required by the town manager.
Thank you for the reading. I would just, it's been pointed out that I would like to suggest that on page 5 at the end where it says for June 28, 2018, that we add at 7 p.m. at the Coventry High School as an amendment so that it further clarified not only the time but the location on the date of June 28th. That's my request for a motion to amend that. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, so that has been added. Thank you, Mr. Gore. A lot happening here. My mic is on. Thought it was. Okay, I see the red. Maybe it's red under the light versus red. And normally I'm pretty loud anyhow, but thank you, Mr. Warzika. All right, I'm shutting mine off. I guess we have other council people that want to make comments, which more than welcome.
Well, at this time, I'm going to make a motion that we accept the resolution as amended. And discussion.
Okay, and discussion then. Motion made and seconded to accept the resolution, and discussion is open now for the council. Anyone?
Me? Sorry.
Okay, go right ahead.
Carlson? Okay, I think we need a very clear understanding. You know, when I first heard that this was going to be brought up tonight, nobody called and asked me what I thought about it. I was kind of not thinking this was a good idea to reopen the FTM, but obviously, we have two new budgets, we have no state aid, we have bond indebtedness and loans we have to pay. I mean, it's just a fact of life. We have to pay this. We've got voter approval for bonds. You know, it's like going out and buying a new house, and then, oops, you're not going to pay the bills. That doesn't work, people. But I want to know clearly and in easy peasy English language, what happens if we go to another financial town meeting and the levy does not get passed again? I don't care if we want to make allusions to the fiscal cliff and we're running off like lemmings and blah, blah, blah. I want good, solid information. I like that now because I think it's the only way that I personally can make a decision on a vote tonight on this resolution. I mean, I have a pretty good idea of what we could lose by not having an approval for the levy, but I think it's important for, you know, the few people that are here, and I got to tell you, thank you all for coming. I know nobody wanted to do this again tonight, and I'm kind of disappointed we don't have more people, but I think you're the people that we need to speak to, and you can go out and give out the right information, because God knows on social media the last few weeks, it's been complete BS. So let's get the right information, and then let's disseminate it. So could somebody please give us, you know, an explanation of what could happen if the levy is defeated again? Thank you.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Gorham.
think, I think the somber tone of the Auditor General's letter makes it very clear that there will be dire financial circumstances for the town if the levy doesn't carry. And that's because we've adopted budgets, and under the charter, we revert to the previous year's levy and so forth only if we haven't adopted budgets. But we have adopted budgets. We have a tax problem. And if the levy is not passed, the town council actually has the authority to pass the levy. And the town council can pass it, to be perfectly candid. But that is not the way that we should do it as a town if we can possibly avoid it. And the reason is that the creditors are going to become very concerned that the will of the people, even if it's expressed by as few as 150 people, as it was at 11:30 on June 12th, that's the will of the people according to our creditors, and it could have dire financial consequences for us, including short-term borrowing that we do every single year. By the way, that resolution passed. The tax anticipation notes passed, ironically. However, I am advised by bond counsel that if the voters reject the levy again, we will not be able to raise cash through the tax anticipation notes because of what I just mentioned, which is that no one will want to loan us money because the stated will of the people is that we don't want to pay our debts. So who would loan us money if we express again and again that we don't want to pay our debts? It would be a big mistake. And so short-term borrowing, we do that every year. Every town in the state does it every year. In a nutshell, we end our fiscal year on June 30th, and we don't start collecting taxes as a town until, depending on when the tax bills go out, August or September. You all know, like I do, when I go to town hall and pay my tax bill. That's the earliest the town gets money to operate. Imagine if they didn't get any money because there's no tax well, imagine that there's no money in between the end of this year, which is just a couple weeks away, and say September 1. there's simply no cash, there's no money to operate the town. There's no money to open the schools. And it's going to be a calamity. So it is important, even though we allowed the tax anticipation notes resolution to pass, it's important for we as a town to show our creditors that we do pay our bills, we do pay our debts, and we will have that opportunity if the town council sets the town meeting on June 28th, which, you know, as a taxpayer, I hope you do.
Okay, but I'm also talking about the fact that the voters approved a $12 million bond, for example, for the new police department DHS building. We've sold $7 million in bonds of that money.
Yes.
We would not have the ability to probably sell the other half, the $5 million, so we'll have half a building. If we don't get state aid and grants in kind, we won't have libraries. We have 2 libraries now. They'll cut services. We would probably have Parks and Rec cut back drastically. We'll have DPW cut back drastically. And we already know that's probably the biggest money guzzler department in the town, because it's got the trucks and everything else that it needs. So that's what I really wanted to have pointed out, are the drastic cuts to our services. And, you know, I think that's what's important. We need to know, our bond rating would probably tank, correct? If we can't pay our bills,
That's
Moody's
exactly
is not
what-
going to give us a good bond rating.
That's what our bond counsel warned us, and that's why you won't be able to borrow through tax anticipation notes to carry us through the summer months when there's a lag between, as I said, the budget as approved and the tax levy, hopefully as approved, and the receipts by the town. Thank you for pointing this out, Member Carlson. Thank you.
Can I make a couple of points? I wrote a few things down, but first of all, that meeting last Tuesday was terrible, and if I have my way, we'll never see another FTM in this town. I certainly want to go to an all-day referendum. I think we worked hard to present a budget. I think we should present it to the people, and then you have an all-day referendum to vote. You either want it or you won't. It was absolutely ridiculous that we're in this situation, all because of 150 people in special interest groups. I think the town failed miserably in not explaining what the resolutions were. They're complicated and confusing to us, and we work with them. And I understand, I don't want to degrade anybody not knowing what it was, but it was confusing. It needed to be spelled out in layman's terms, and we failed at doing that. And I'll take, responsibility along with the rest of the council and making sure that should have been done. I don't think that people understood what the ramifications are. After we approved the budget, everybody left, and that just wasn't the thing to do. An argument can be made that we have the authority to move forward. I will not be part of not paying our bills. We have to pay our bills. As Karen has stated, we have many projects. There's a potential project the state is working on, coming up with a plan to help rebuild the schools that requires a matching bond from the town. If we ruin our town, that'll never get done if we ruin our credit. I will not be part of that. I don't want to use our authority to move forward. I want a voter approval, but I want the voters to understand what they're voting for. I understand that. Right? I want to make sure this resolution, again, even we read it, it's still confusing. I want to have each one explained in layman's terms, Mr. Moderator or Mr. Solicitor, before we make a vote on this. If the state, if we do not pay our bills, there'll be things such as the summer camp recreation might not go. That would be devastating to a lot of children, a lot of parents in this town. I mean, there'll be numerous layoffs, whether it be teachers. We'll revert back to our this year's budget. They won't get any of the money that was asked for. The police will have layoffs. It'll be detrimental to this town if this thing does not pass. I mean, it has to pass as a package deal. So I understand that the people were confused. Everybody was confused. I'd like to think that I don't want 150 people, which is what this passed by, or failed by, to make a decision on 37,000 people. I don't know if everybody understood the ramifications of what would happen if it didn't pass. I mean, I just want Same thing as Karen. I want this explained. I want people to understand. Before we make the vote, I want to make sure everybody understands what we're voting on. And this tonight is just a vote to move the FTM, to finish the FTM and have another meeting. I certainly think we need to do a better job to how we're going to do it yet. I don't know, but I want to make sure at the FTM, hopefully there's a large crowd there, we can explain better. I think we failed miserably on the FTM. And we did, and I think the voters did also. I'm sorry, but I think we all failed miserably, and it never should have happened. We should not be in this position that we're in. So thank you for listening.
Mr. LaBossiniere?
I just wanted to add to what my colleagues have stated here, that that was a emotionally and physically exasperating, exhausting evening the night of the financial town meeting. And again, there was not a lot of clarity, and a lot of this stuff was based on emotion. Right now, in other words, my emotion is out of any decision here based mainly on this letter that we've received from the Auditor General. We've invoked the Auditor General for other things in this town, and now we have a letter stating that this is the way we must proceed, and in order to protect everybody in town. And again, I think we all have regrets over the way that financial town meeting turned out, the lack of information. But it's a very difficult situation when you approach that with your top two people, the town manager and the finance director, both gone, within a month prior to the FTM. Mr. Delaney came in and did a fine job, but it was still a very confusing time for all of us. And I'm hoping that we can move through this, start off the next year with this in place, and go by the people's wishes to pass the school budget and the town budget. And of course, nothing is exactly the way everybody wanted it. But I've stated it many times in the past. We've been at a point where we could choose our sacrifices. We're at a point where our sacrifices are beginning to choose us. And it's a very difficult situation every budget season. Next year will not be any different. The only thing that I hope to be different next year is the information and the clarity of what's out to the taxpayers. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Bacon, okay, Mrs. Carlson?
Just one other point that I think needs to be made, that this is a financially tough year, but as we go on, it's going to get worse. We've got quite a large school budget to fund, and I'm not saying whether that's good or bad. Obviously, it's the way it is. We have a teacher's contract that is going to add millions of dollars to our budget. We've got the buildings to consider. We want the best for our kids. We all want that. It's just that going forward, this is not going to get any better. It's not going to get any less. So, much as I was against another financial town meeting, because to me the voters spoke, I think we just need to understand. And I told Mr. Gorham in a phone call today that he has to sell me tonight to get my vote to go forward with this, because I was going to vote no. So I want to hear the information, and I want to know what we're up against. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
I can't express enough to the voters that next year at our budget hearings, that is the time to show up, give us your suggestions, your ideas, your thoughts. The financial town meeting was made a mockery of. It was terrible. I mean, that was not the time to get up and make these foolish resolutions that some of these people had. I mean, I'm all for everybody has the right to speak, but we wasted a lot of time and a lot of people left because it was getting late. So I can't stress enough that the time to come and put your thoughts and your ideas is at the budget hearings so we can move along. I hope it is going to be different next year, because I hope we don't have a financial town meeting. I want to see an all-day referendum. I repeat that again. I don't want to see a financial town meeting.
I think you have a consensus on that, Mr. McGee, from the council.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. It made a good point. That financial town meeting cost this town $20,000, and it was a fiasco with the rental of everything, the chairs and overtime and everything that had to be done. It was $20,000 to put that meeting on. Now, I mean, the people have the right. You guys got to know where your money goes, but I think $20,000 could be spent much better in an all-day referendum. Present you the budget, and you either take it or you don't. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McGee, thank you. Mrs. Bacon, do you have any comments before we call a vote?
I have to say, I am very disappointed the state was not, we asked state officials to be here tonight from the Office of the Auditor General and Department of Revenue. I am very disappointed that they're not here. They had conversations with folks in the town, not with the town council. The town council, we're sitting up here. We should be able to sit here and ask them questions. I want to know if the levy does not pass, when would we go over that financial cliff, that fiscal cliff? I don't know, because there is no one here. We don't have a finance director. I can't ask any questions. So I have some major concerns about this going forward. We have to find another $200,000 that was appropriated to the schools. Where are we going to find that money?
I mean, according to the adjusted tax is what we've done as far as,
Yep.
Since it's been added onto the
so,
proposed tax rate prior to, and that's adjusted, and that's accounted for in this modified numbers.
That-
But that was already approved with the budget. So
Okay.
funding for that budget.
They're in
It's in
here,
there.
so our tax
Yes.
rate has gone up.
What's the,
Tax rate went up, it was 2061, I believe it was, and it became 2068 with the new numbers, the 202,
The 21?
622 that was added. So that number's been accounted for, and all the numbers that have been out have added that amount in as approved by the FTM in those budgets.
right.
The same way we did that night to adjust the numbers on the levy. It's just been added in after the fact, which happens every year when we do that, and that changes up or down. Those numbers are adjusted before that final levy is passed. They've been adjusted appropriately. That's all been approved by the state. I turned that into the DOR, Department of Revenue, yesterday morning, and went back and forth. They changed, they agreed with all the verbiage that was added in and changed to put this on, and they're the ones that approved, and those numbers were checked by them, confirmed by them.
And that goes to our point, Mrs. Bacon and I, we sent letters today to the OAG and the DOR asking for them to be here tonight, because what you just said, how do we know that's even in here? I didn't know that was added in here already with the totals. Again, I'd like to know what I'm voting on. I'm sorry, go
no,
ahead.
I mean, the other thing, bond counsel, we have no legal opinion from her. She's not here. I mean, this is ridiculous.
All right, well, comments noted. As I mentioned at the beginning of the evening, our town solicitor has been in close contact, our town manager has been in close contact, our acting financial director has been in close contact. We are under a timeline within 5 to 7 days. It's in front of us. The letter is very clearly articulated. For the individual to sit here and read his letter, I don't think anything else would be added. It's something where it must be passed, bills must be paid, the tax revenue must come in, and it's as clear as the nose on everybody's face. It's either approve or reject. And I call for a motion on the vote.
We had a motion.
All right, a motion and second, and we had our discussion. All in favor?
Are we done discussing
Yes,
this?
we are.
No,
All
we're
in,
not.
all in favor?
Like, this is a democracy.
Aye.
That's it, I'm out of
All
here.
right, motion approved, or passed. All right. Okay,
Discussion is over. Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn, seconded,
I didn't even get a chance to say anything.
seconded,
I'm sorry?
motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion, is he gonna second or not?
Yeah, I'm
Motion.
second. Motion to adjourn. Second.
All
Yes,
right.
second.
All right, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night.